Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to 2XKO. I was fortunate enough to be able to get some beta access, and I've been testing out the game for a little bit, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. One of the first things I saw everybody do was just put out guides on all of the various system mechanics, which I really appreciated because the tutorial was not super thorough. But, you know, I figured it would be a little bit redundant for me to also make a guide on all of the system mechanics. If you want to watch one, I really recommend Cloud805. His was the one that I watched. I thought it was really good, really thorough. For this one, I sort of wanted to talk through the system mechanics, but rather than it being a guide, I sort of wanted to talk about the implications and what I feel like it means for the future of this game. If you want the TLDR up front, I feel like 2XKO is probably the most approachable tag fighter I have maybe ever seen, with possibly the exception of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. But, you know, when this was coming out, I had a couple of friends who were like, you know, tag fighters aren't really my thing, and that's super fair. You know, not every game is going to be for every person. Now, having played the game, I think this game is probably more accessible to those people than, you know, we had originally thought. This isn't really on the scale of like Marvel or the Hunter x Hunter game that's coming out, or Dragon Ball. This is a lot more tame and reasonable than that. I think the offense and the combo structure is going to appeal a lot to those people that enjoy tag fighters. But some of the neutral and the defensive options and the mechanics and whatnot, I think appeal a little bit more to somebody who wants maybe still a fast-paced neutral, but something a little bit more akin to like a Street Fighter or like a KOF or like one of those types of games, right? So the first thing we can talk about is movement in this game is pretty tame. Ahri is kind of the exception to the rule. You know, she can air dash both forward and back. Echo has an air dash. In fact, here, we can just trade him in real quick. He has an air dash forward, which, as you can see, has sort of a little bit of verticality to it. It goes up a little bit. It's almost akin to like a uni air dash, but just like a uni air dash, he's not able to air dash back, right? But in general, most characters, like if I trade in Alawi here, they just have one jump. There's no double jump in the game. There's no, you know, anything like that. You can block in the air, which is important to know. But the general like air movement isn't akin to like a Marvel 3 where like somebody's gonna jump up and then triangle dash down at your feet and then hit you with a low or something like that. A little bit more tame than that. Or even, it's not even on the scale of like Dragon Ball where like obviously you can, you know, hyper hop. I mean, you can still like super jump in this game too. So let's not get that twisted. But you know, in DBFZ, you could like air dash, you could double jump, you could, you know, you have the super dash, dragon, you know, there's all types of shit, right? So the movement is pretty tame and the defense options are pretty good. So I'm gonna have the Alawi come and do a string to me real quick, just a simple one. And the first defensive option that we'll highlight is this ability to backdash on block. So the Alawi's coming at me. Oop. Oh yeah, that's right. So you see right there, I'm able to backdash between the second and third hit. Have her do it again. Right? We're able to get out of that situation. So you noticed the first time that I tried to do that, I got tagged. And the reason is that it is vulnerable to lows. Technically, you're dashing. So when you're dashing back, you're not holding low. So if I try to do it right here, you see I'll get tagged low. But what you'll notice is that as I do this, I'm not using any resource. Like this bar at the top isn't going down, my meters at the bottom isn't going down. So being able to backdash in block pressure is entirely free. Just like in Marvel 3, the ability to push block somebody away from you is entirely free. So does this game not have push block? What do you do if you're in the corner? Well, if you're in the corner, you do have push block. So if I have her do the exact same string, see, you're able to push her away. Now the push block does specifically use a meter. You see, if I have her do this, you actually do spin one of your super gauges. And just to talk about notations real quick, this dash back mechanic in the middle of the screen is back, light, and medium, which is your dash macro. So it's literally back dash in block stun. And push block is while you're in block stun, you push forward and dash. So we could also do it mid-screen. You don't have to be in the corner, right? So you've got a push block that you can use to get people away from you, and you've also got this retreating guard, which is really, really good. But importantly, vulnerable to lows. The other thing is that this game has a universal wake-up DP mechanic. So if I have the Alawi knock me down, if I just hold one of my special buttons, I'll do this get-up attack, which knocks people away from you. And every character in the game has that. And if you notice, it also doesn't cost a resource, right? You can just do this. This is part of the, like, 50-50 when somebody is waking up. So entirely free retreating guard, entirely free wake up DP. Importantly, you know, because there is a universal wake up DP, it seems like so far, I think maybe with the exception of Darius, they're being really hesitant to implement DPs on the characters themselves. Probably because they just don't want it to be a part of neutral. They probably want the neutral to be more about the spacing of your moves, how you're utilizing, you know, your assist character, how you're implementing your fuse, I think they're called. Yeah, fuse. I always want to call them pulse because pulse is the first fuse that they recommend you use, but no, they're called fuses. So yeah, I think they want the game to centralize more around that rather than like, should I approach now or should I approach later? Are they going to DP me or, you know, that sort of thing. So I think that's pretty interesting. So, you know, historically in tag games, the way that neutral works, you know, when I was first teaching people how to play Tekken on this channel, I would say things like, you know, you can just be patient, you can just hold back, you know, maybe they'll do some plus stuff and then eventually it'll become your turn. And then once you've identified it's your turn, then you take your turn, right? There's no punishment for being patient. Historically in tag fighters, there is a punishment for being patient because if we're talking about a game like Dragon Ball, or we're talking about a game like Marvel, we'll just talk about Dragon Ball as an example. If you ever block a normal, then you're usually going to block a number of normals because it's a string-based game. And then you're going to have to block the assist that they call whenever their turn would be up. And then you're going to have to block whatever mix-up they do off of the assist. And then they're going to do another string of pressure, and then they're going to call in a second assist, and then you're going to have to block another mix-up, and then you're going to have to deal with a little bit more pressure after that, right? So basically, anytime you block one thing, because you're now in like a block stun state and your options are limited while you're in that state, you're basically committing to defending against multiple different mix-ups, right? So the way that you would play a game like Marvel 3 or a game like Dragon Ball is to do everything in your power to not make contact with the opponent in like a defensive sense at all, right? You would do things like hyper hop back a bunch, or you would activate fly and you would try to get out of the situation. You would like Morrigan, you know, activate the install to create the clone of her, do soul fist, fly, soul fist, let's get at it. You know, there were a lot of like moving away from the opponent. But because, you know, the default of this game is not having a lot of air movement, and because the defensive mechanics, both on block and after you've been hit and knocked down, are so strong, I feel like this game leans more into not avoiding your opponent, but just being able to deal with them effectively once they've already made contact with you, which I think is a lot more approachable and a lot more akin to games like Street Fighter 6 or like KOF, these sorts of games where you can't necessarily just outmaneuver your opponent the entire round. The other thing is that usually in team games, the damage is like unbearable for a lot of people. You'll like get one touch, TOD'd, and all, you know, all of that sort of stuff, especially if people have resources. And I'm not here to tell you that the damage in this game is particularly light, but one of the things that I think really changes the way that it feels is just the fact that this is a round-based game. Do I have my mouse? I can't highlight it. But if you look above the fuses in like the center of the screen above the health bars, you'll see that there's two little pips up there. And those are the round counters. So when I went around, I would fill it one up and then, you know, we would go on to the next thing. So it's not like you get into a match, your two characters die, and then the game is over, you go next. No, it's like a 2 out of 3 rounds, and then maybe in a bracket you're playing 2 out of 3 out of these 2 out of 3 rounds, just like you would for like a Street Fighter 6. I think this really changes the way that things feel because let's say 2 touches are like the standard, right? You hit Ari twice and then she dies, and I think that is pretty standard. You hit Alawi twice and then she dies. What that means is that for each round, you're getting hit 4 times, which again is pretty similar to a game like a Street Fighter 6 or like you know, any other standard, you know, Mortal Kombat 1, maybe. I don't know. Mortal Kombat's gotten a little bit crazy with this installment. But, you know, it's not unheard of to have like 4 touch kills in this game or in, you know, fighting games in general. So I think all of these things make the game feel really, really tame is maybe not an appealing word for people that are into tag fighters, but like, I think it's tame in the right places is the way that I would say it. I also really, really like the fuse system because basically what it means is that like normally in a tag game, one of the things that can be really off-putting or intimidating about them is that you're like, oh, I don't want to learn 3 entire characters. Like, that seems like a lot of legwork to do. But in this game, you only have to learn 2 characters, and if you want to play with a friend, you only have to learn 1, which I think is awesome. But having the fuses basically, it gives the potential for somebody else who was playing my team, for example, Ari Alawi, to take it in an entirely different direction. So just to talk about like my team's game plan and why I've landed on this. Ari, super mobile. I like having her on point just because she allows me to sort of play the neutral game the way that I want to. And then once I've built up a little bit of meter for my team, I am using the fuse that lets you do DHCs, so you can do one super into another super. I think that's particularly good in this team and in this direction because of the interaction that we have here. So if I just do literally any combo with Ari into this like Firefox super, right? And that didn't even combo, but just to show that it can. Then we DHC into the Alawi tentacles. Now we've got the opponent in the corner, and we've got a bunch of that setup pressure. If you happen to see some of the videos I was making about Dragon Ball, I had built a Nappa team because I just really like the idea of like using one character to set up a situation where you could get like a third party on the screen, either it be being a Cyberman or, you know, tentacles. Hopefully in the future I can get some Heimerdinger turrets on the screen, or maybe some Teemo shrooms or something, I don't know. But yeah, I just think this is a really cool interaction. But somebody else, you know, I've seen other people who are playing the same team, but they're using like double tag assist, the freestyle fuse. I keep forgetting what they're called. And I just think that that's super, super cool. It sort of eases some of the stress of like having to learn multiple characters from somebody who doesn't find that particularly appealing. Anyway, and just still preserves the creativity for people who do like that sort of thing, right? I think one of the things that maybe makes the game a little bit less approachable, and it was, you know, giving me a little bit of a headache at first, was that some of the input stuff isn't very universal. So, you know, the game has 2 different special buttons. You have special 1 and you have special 2. And I was sort of expecting it to be like a Smash Brothers or even like a DNF duel where you push another direction, you get another special. And to be fair, that is how this game works, but there isn't like a standardization, right? It's not like you have stand special 1 and crouch special 1 and then stand special 2 and crouch special 2. You do on this character, but if I tag over to Alawi as an example, if I have a tentacle out, I have this little command throw move that I can do. But the command throw, oop, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. Get out another tentacle at some point. The command throw is 1 special 1 or down back special 1. Can I also just say, I'm a big proponent of anime notation. I just think it's a really clean way of communicating inputs to people. So if you're not, you know, keen on this, it's numpad notation. So basically if I say 2, it means down. So 2M would be down and medium. If I say 6, it means forward. So 6M would be forward and medium. But because they've named 2 of the buttons special 1 and special 2, now if I say 2 special 2, the listener has to like know that the second 2 isn't a direction. It's just part of the name of the button. And I don't really like that. I think it would have been just as easy, you know, since you have light, medium, heavy, and tag, to just name the special A and special B. That way I could say 2A and 2B. But that's just a small little gripe. I feel like it makes communication a little bit harder, but who knows. Another thing is that like in Dragon Ball, you do have like a universal anti-air. It's just down heavy. It'll get all of the air action things out of the sky. Why am I phrasing it this way? Anyway, you have like a universal anti-air button. That's not super standard in tag games. Like in Marvel 3, you don't really have an anti-air button. In Skullgirls, you don't have an anti-air button. In this game, it seems that you do have an anti-air button. Your anti-air button is pretty much always just 2H. So down and heavy is going to do it every time. Different characters have different qualities of 2H. So like this one can help you start a combo. Right? Whereas Ahri's 2H sort of knocks people down to the ground. And then maybe you get like another hit, but in general, you're not going to get like a full combo off of it. So basically, I say this to say that like the game sort of expects that you are anti-airing people out of the sky. And again, most characters don't have a ton of air action, so the possibility of doing so is pretty straightforward. Like they're going to jump at you, it's a linear jump, you anti-air them, boom. You can't block in the air, but obviously if somebody is doing an air action like attacking on their way down, then you would be able to anti-air something like that. And if somebody is just jumping at you like so, then let me switch to a character that has a more traditional anti-air. Have her jump at me. You know, you can get an entire combo off of it. So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. To me, you know, that and all the other things that we've communicated about, like only having to learn 2 characters, good defensive options on block, good defensive options on wake up, universal options in general. I think they all communicate that this is a game where rather than like wanting the opponent to play away from you and do stuff like this and then call the assist, and then if you get a hit with the assist, then you tag in and do this sort of stuff. There's going to be some degree of that in the game. Let's not get it twisted. But that is not like the primary way that neutral is going to be played in this game, I don't think. I think the primary way that neutral is going to be played in this game is going to depend a lot upon the team that you build and the fuse that you bring with them. And I think that that's exactly what you would want as a game dev. So yeah, my first impressions of this game are really, really strong. I think this game is going to be for more people than I had initially thought. I think if you're somebody who has like a predominantly 3D background, like a Tekken, Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur, maybe, you know, this game might not be for you, but if you have any kind of 2D fighting game background, this is probably pretty approachable. And I think that's really exciting. Not even to mention the fact that like League of Legends is a pretty strong IP. Not the strongest IP, it's not like stronger than Marvel, right? But this game is also going to be free to play. We don't get very many like truly authentically free to play fighting games. So this game is going to make a lot of waves, you know. Yeah, I'm really excited. We're going to do some more individual character guides in the coming days. Apologies for the delay. My mouth has been hurting like a son of a bitch. If you don't know, I had surgery recently, so it's been a little bit difficult, but wanted to get this quick video out. It's just sort of a first impressions video. And yeah, maybe we'll stream a little bit later or something like that. But I really appreciate you watching. Take care, everyone. Peace.